Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just after close on Friday, April 30th, and we're going to do our Friday thing for the time being at least, which is take a look at AMC, see where it might be going in the week ahead, and try to make some plans and plot out some ideas. Before we get started, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's jump right into it. So we're going to do two things with AMC today. One, we're going to look at the 3-month, 2-hour chart. That's to give us sort of like a larger context of what's happening with the price action, where it is today, with sort of like a broader time span and what we might be able to look for in the coming days and weeks if you are taking like a longer trade on AMC. Then we're going to switch it over. We're going to delete everything and we're going to switch to the 5-day, 5-minute chart to see if you're sort of doing shorter day trades or swing trades, getting in and out of positions with AMC, what we might be able to look for on Monday in particular as the trading week unfolds for play opportunities and options. Okay, so 2-hour, 3-month chart. So the first thing that strikes me, and I'm doing this from scratch, FYI, so you guys can get a sense of how it is that I chart these things from scratch. So hopefully that's helpful so you can do this on your own when you want or when you need. The first thing that strikes me is basically AMC is in this like long-term channel. When we draw these channels, just in case you're unaware, things like this where we lop off the top of the channel, but everything else pretty much fits inside. You know, you only need to capture 90-95% of the price activity to account for a channel. There will be some prices that fly out the top and some that drop through the bottom, but as long as most, like the vast majority of the price activity, which would be 90-95%, is happening within that channel, then we can call it an active channel. So this one's actually been active, like, I mean, if you say it basically entered around here, so this is beginning of February. So being that we're almost at the beginning of May, or we will be when the trading week opens up again, you know, that's like a 3-month channel that it's holding here. So this is pretty good. And basically the situation, sorry if you heard this a lot of times before, but for new folks, the way that we play the channels is we dip by the bottom of the channel, which would be right now, and then we take profit toward the top of the channel. So, you know, think of this as sort of like your dip buy. So here you're gonna sort of like alert, buy this dip, and then here you're gonna be cash out, get that green. So that's the way we play the channels, and just kind of like ride the wave in the interim, you know. So like as you would have sold out your position up here, you would have just kind of been waiting for it to come down to dip buy. And you could also start to buy your dips, you know, around this area as it gets toward the bottom half of the channel. It's always good to know what the halfway point in the channel is. So like right now, this like 1220 or so is about halfway up the channel. So if you're in the bottom half of the channel, you might want to start thinking about dip buying. If you're in the top half of the channel, you might want to start thinking about trimming. And then, you know, if the price continues to dip toward the bottom of the channel, then just average down. And if the price continues up to the top of the channel, just continue trimming your position as it goes closer to the top. So this is the channel. This would be like the most dominant aspect of the chart, in my opinion, is just playing the channel. Channels are super reliable. All channels eventually break. Just keep that in mind. And so at some point it will leave this channel and it won't return. It'll form some kind of a new channel. But while it does hold the channel, it's super reliable to play it from the bottom half to the top half. If we want to look at some more like particular price targets to look at, you know, I would say this, like basically where it is right now, is a really good support potential bounce zone. Actually down a little bit further at 989. You know, I would look for a strong bounce there. Similarly here, you should get a strong bounce here. You see all of this previous support here, and then resistance recently here, support recently there. So that should be a really good zone, and that would push it out of the channel. So we could call this like a cautionary zone where, like, if it comes down to this 895, you're really going to want to be careful that it doesn't get sucked into a death spiral downward. On the upside, I would look for this is a potential upside price target. I like to go a little bit conservative on these because, if the price target's like 11.25, you very well might want to set your limit sell at something like 11.10, 11.15, 11.20, so that if it falls just shy of that zone, that you still were able to catch part of the peak. And then, I look at like this level, 12.15. So these are some good, actually, like pretty well spread out price targets this week. Last week, they were a little bit more clumped together, but these are basically like one per dollar. I know there's two in the $12 range, but they're pretty far apart, which is pretty good for a stock that's so low priced. So this is what I would look for if you want to set and look for actual like price figures in the coming week. Cautionary low zone at 8.95, an immediate support at 9.89, and then upper price targets basically at the dollar, $11 and $12, and then at about $13, $13.50, and then mid to low 14s on the upside. But I will just once again preface that with the more important thing than those particular price points is playing the channel, because all of those prices will play out if you're in the channel anyway. And so the more consistent thing is to just play the channel, and those prices will come to pass anyway. If it falls out of the channel, then that's where that 8.95 could come into play. If you wanted to take that as just sort of like a warning shot, that 8.95, I would look for something like the 777 if you did want to think about a stop loss. It's percentage-wise a really big drop. So just remember, if you're willing to hold all the way down to 777 for a stop loss, you're going to take quite a hit on a percentage basis. But up to you with your particular risk to reward ratio and what it is that you're trying to get out of this play. Okay, so that's the chart for the 2-hour chart. I'm going to delete this, so if you want to take a snapshot or pause it here, jot anything down, whatever you want to do it now. I'm going to delete it, so we're going to take a look at the indicators. All right, indicators. Let's look at the MAs. MAs are turning slightly bearish, as you would imagine, with this price movement down. It did do a good job working itself out of a downtrend, which is indicated by this 180, this red MA being over all the price action. It crossed back over it, on about the 22nd or so of April, and has done a really good job maintaining that. So it's not only bouncing at that support level that we just charted, but it's also working to bounce off of this 180. So that'll be sort of interesting to see. Can it stay above the 180 and stay in an overall bullish trend? Then we'd be looking for this orange and this purple to flip and cross over the yellow line also. All right, so those are your MAs. Let's take a look at the MACD while we're here. So MACD indicating the bearish momentum is dying down, may have a bullish run coming. It's in a really good position. It's in a similar position to how it was here. And so the MACD and the signal line are looking like they're about to kiss, and that could allow for a crossover, and it's coming from nice negative territory, again, similar to what it did here. And so we might see a nice push like we did from about, mid-8s and rode it up to over 10, so about $1.50. So you might see something like that ish, something riding it over 11 in this next push. But MACD is looking like the bearish momentum is dying down at the moment. RSI is pretty close to being oversold, so 30 is considered oversold. Right now it's at 37, and as you see, the oversold previously has triggered some pretty big bullish runs. So it was oversold here, big bullish run. It was oversold here, it got a nice bullish run. So something to look out for. Yeah, Also here, oversold, continue to be oversold, and then it got a nice bump up. So it's been like vacillating back and forth between oversold and not. Unfortunately, it hasn't done a ton getting into overbought territory like it did here. It's been spending more time oversold than overbought. So something to keep in mind there. But if you look at sort of like the trend line from this low on the RSI, it is kind of potentially coming up a bit. So could be some good bullish signs here for AMC on the 2-hour chart. All right, let's flip the script and let's look at the 5-day, 5-minute, see what sort of like the micro chart looks like for your shorter term trades. The first thing that obviously stands out to me here is that there is this downtrend that AMC is kind of stuck under. What happened? I lost my line. Okay. So, if we capture this, again, like 95% of the price action, that's not not super. But, we know that we're downtrending at the moment. It essentially is looking, if you look on this 5-day chart, is clearly looking to find a new floor. And so, the hope would be that that this 988 is about it. There's a potential that this big move down was coming down to fill this gap here, which would have stretched it down to 1021. And then sometimes you just get caught with so much selling pressure that it continues down further. So if it was coming down to fill this gap, I would look for it to get caught. Here's our catch zones again. If we scroll back a little bit, there should be some decent support here, which is right where it has ended up recently. So keep a strong eye on that. So if you get caught underneath that 988s, it might be tough. But otherwise, you could be looking to flag out here, essentially, meaning, the price of it stays underneath this white line, but over this yellow line, it's going to work itself either, out of that and have the potential to go upward, or it's going to continue to get pushed down underneath. So it'll at least have some sort of like a moment of truth coming up, I would think. We won't have to wait too long to find out. On the upside, I don't want to go with too like piddly of price targets here, but if you are looking for shorter term stuff, 1012 is a good initial target, and then something around here. These are going to be much tighter together because it's a much more compressed time frame, but that's just how it goes. So there's a bunch in the 10s. You could just watch these to see kind of like how the price action is moving as it gets to these points. So the expectation is that it comes to these levels and it kind of bounces off of it as resistance, and then it overcomes it and establishes it as support. And so these are good zones to look for the price to kind of turn from resistance into support. And if that continuously happens, then you have a nice bullish run up. And it's not just that it's a bullish run up, it's that there then becomes a bunch of really good support levels underneath the price action, which is what you want, so that if there is a dip, you can have confidence in buying the dip or holding through the dip and not worry that it's, it doesn't really have any support and it's just going to like crumble and fall through the floor. So that's what I look for in the coming days. Obviously we could have a much, much bigger run up than this, but that sort of aligns with what I was saying with the turn on the MACD that we could be seeing, and on the RSI where, it could be coming up about $1.50 or so. That would put it around that 1141. Okay, so here's the charts. Again, if you want to snag this, now is the time to do it, or pause it. You can always rewind. Let's flip to the indicators. Let's grab our MAs. So our MAs are kind of bunching up right now, which often means that they're going to unravel in some bullish or bearish formation and make their next move. So yeah, you would have seen this here, for example. So see all of these MAs, there's 4 of them, they all bunched up and they're all right on top of each other essentially. And then the 12, which is our shortest term one, made this big run up, and the 20 followed it, and the 50 followed it, and it started to increase the distance from the 12 and the 20 from the 50 and the 180. So the distance was increasing. So that to me would have been, ooh, big buy signal. So it looks like the bunching up you can essentially think of as coiling. It's the price is stagnating, it's coiling, and it's awaiting its next big move. We don't know if the move is going to be up or down. That's the thing. So when you look for it to start unraveling, and the more frantic or the more sharp or the more steep the unraveling, whether it's up or down, the more likely it is that that is going to be the near-term trend that it's moving towards. So we saw this big sharp rise, and so that would have been a big bullish signal. So if you bought in there, you could have ridden it all the way up until it started to bunch up again. Everything started to get closer together as opposed to getting further apart. That's your first initial sign of a reversal. Things are closing in together, and then it reversed. So you could have sold out around here as things were starting to close in together. So that'll be the question here. Everything is coming down to bunch. And as it bunches, are we going to get a sharp move up from the 12, which is the orange one, and dragging everything else along with it? Or is everything going to bunch up and then the 12 is going to jet down and drag everything down with it? That'll be the thing to watch as you're trying to figure out if you want to try to catch a run up or not. MACD. So some good bullish activity coming on. The histogram is as high as it was back here. Not quite as high as this area back here, but that's fine. The signal and the MACD are closing in on each other a little bit, so it looks like they could be coming to kiss or to touch, and which could signal that the MACD is going to cross below the signal, which would be slightly bearish. So I would just watch out for that. Obviously, it's dipping further, right here than it was here and it was here. So that pressure, that dipping pressure is picking up. RSI has come up about mid-level. So it pushed off a lot from this oversold. Problem is it pushed up like over mid-range, but it barely dragged the price along with it at all. So that's not a great sign in terms of like the price volume and the activity that came into play to move the RSI up. You would want to see a much bigger push up that sort of went side by side with this big push up on the RSI. You want to see that sort of mirrored in the price action. It was not here. So kind of a mixed bag on AMC at the moment. The 3-month 2-hour I think is looking more bullish than the 5-minute 5-day. But we have some things to look for. We have the potential that this gap was just filled and that will allow us to kind of like, move off of it. And we'll just sort of have to see. But, if you're in it for very short-term trades, it might be kind of a sideways-ish / slightly bearish kind of week ahead. Or if you're sort of taking longer-term positions, like on the 2-hour, 3-month chart that we're looking at, this might be a really good bottom of the channel dip buying opportunity. I will always opt for a channel above anything else, above flagging, above RSI, MACD, above any of the price targets, the supply and demand zones. So I would rely on that channel if it were me. All right, well, I hope everyone had a good week. I hope that this gives you some ideas on what you can think about or plan for in the week ahead. And I wish you all the best of luck. Feel free to leave comments below. I look at them over the weekend, so I should see them in the next couple of days. All right, I will see you all in the next video.